I'm using 10 years because I'm probably using 10 years, which is my own journey from where I started to where I got to. And I'm going to tell you why I think I'm in a very good position to be able to be speaking about this because it's based on experience. I am passionate about two things, as God has it: communities and engineering. And when I mean engineering, I mean like software development, product engineering, and things like that. Over the years, I had the honor of working with some of the greatest companies we have in Africa and in the world. And everything happened within the last 10 years. I currently lead a team in one of the most successful startups in Africa, one of the latest unicorn in the country, sorry, in the continent, Money Point, right? And unfortunately, I don't work on POS, right? When I tell people that I currently work at Money Point, people start wondering, wait, does it mean you usually walk around with POS? Unfortunately, not. I work as a developer relations manager, and what it means is I support developers to try to implement a payment gateway by MoneyPoint called Monify, and that payment gateway makes it possible for businesses to be able to capture payment, to be able to, for users to be able to make payment on their merchants platform, whether you're using Jumia, you're using Corywise, and a large number of companies, you're using Monify on the background. So I help developers. So like I mentioned, I'm passionate about engineering and communities. So that's why I'm doing this, to help developers, to help businesses grow their skills. Previously, like I mentioned, I got the honor of working in some of the big guys. Previously, I was developer relations manager for Google across sub-Saharan Africa. And what it meant was I was supporting the GDG community, the Women Tech Makers program, the GDSC program, which is a student arm of the GDG program, which has evolved to be GDG on campus. And even before that, I work at Andela. I was the lead program assistant for the Andela Learning Communities program. So for people who have been in the space for a long time, you probably have heard about Andela Learning Communities. We ran that program from within 2016 to 2019, which I have the honor of leading the community across the whole continent. About 3 weeks ago, I was introducing myself to my colleagues at MoneyPoint, and I was like, one thing I'm proud of over the years is that if I visit any of the 54 countries in Africa, at least I know one person. And the only reason why it was possible was because of the roles I did in some of these companies. So, like I mentioned, so I had previous experience at Andela and Google, so I come with experience from these different companies and how people have grown their skills. If you have any question, and like specifically why I still have my Twitter handle here is because I know a whole lot of us are shy, right? If you don't want to ask your question here, just drop me a message. And if unfortunately you are one of those people that I have over the past 4 years removed you from one group or the other, it's because of you. You violated one of the rules of the group. I know I'm known to be very, very merciless when it comes to removing people who do not follow the rules of a WhatsApp group. It's a group, right? It's created for a purpose. But now let's go to the most important thing, why we're here. We're talking about, I'm going to give 10 tips on how you can improve your career, right? You can go from where you want to go from where you are to where you want to go. So where do we go first? The first thing, which is very, very important, is this. You're looking at where do I go from zero to where? To hero. It's oftentimes from where we are to where we're going. So let's look at tip number 1. Simple. Start from where you are to get to where you want to be. I do not have the honor of probably growing up in the US or probably in the UK or not even in Lagos, right? I am just one of the random guys who grew up somewhere here in the north within Jos, Nasarawa, and Abuja to some extent, as well as in Kano. And when I was starting my journey, around 10, 12 years ago, I started from here. I did not have to wait to move to, let's say, Lagos before I start my journey. I started from where I am to get to where I eventually got to be, or like to get to where I am currently. So it's very, very important that you know that you start from where you are and start with what you have. I did not wait to have a MacBook before I start my journey. If you're here and you want to start your journey, and maybe all you have is a mobile phone, that is all you need at this point in time. You don't just wake up in the morning and say, "Hey, you know, I want to learn. I want to learn game development. I want to be a game developer. So I'll wait till I have the money to be able to afford a MacBook, maybe like an M3 laptop, or maybe one of the high-end Surface Windows laptops." You don't do that. Start from where you are and start with what you have. It's very, very important. The next thing you see here is there's a different path. There are very, very many paths to get to where you want to be. It is not as easy as you say, okay, this is the only path. No. For me, I did a whole lot of things, right? I was an Android developer. I did web development. I practice product management. I do program management, right? Before I got to where I am. For you, it can be just, I want to learn this, and I'll start with that, and that is what is going to take you up there. One of the things I tell people is, when I was at Google, one of the things that I got very, very surprised about is Google's main workforce is around 120K people across the world. Around 30K of these people are actually lawyers. Like, if you look at the numbers, you probably look at, like, we're looking at 20% of the number of people who work at Google are actually lawyers. Some of the engineers that we have, and the lawyers here, I mean the people who work in legal department, right? And then we also have people who read health sciences, people who learned who read designs, people who read administration, who are working as software engineers, right? There are many paths to get to where you want to be. I am not telling you this because maybe, hey, you want to go to Google. No, you may not necessarily need to want to go to Google, right? You may just want to work in just any other field, any other, what do you call it, career, right? But just get to know that, like, where you're going, there are many, many paths to it. It may take me around 7 years before I eventually joined Google. For you, it will probably take you 2 years. We have seen people who were part of an learning community that we started in 2017, right? Who are working for Apple, for Microsoft, for Google, for some of the biggest companies in the world, right? And their path was different than my path. So get to know that there are many paths to get to where you want to go. If you wake up now and say, hey, you're living in Kano, there are many ways, there are many places you can go to. That place that you want to go to is your own destination. So there are many paths to get to where you want to be. Like Lazy Developer I mentioned earlier, some of the things, some of the experience we get, and some of the opportunities we get are based on what people we met while speaking at such events. It is important that we understand that it is very, very easy to be able to teach people. It's usually said that if you cannot explain to a 6-year-old person, then you probably do not understand the concept you're trying to teach yourself. So what I'm saying here is that, like, the easiest way for you to learn is actually for you to teach. Some of us take a whole lot of time trying to come to speak at this event. There are a whole lot of people who learn different things, right? But they probably don't have a good understanding of what they were trying to teach. But when they get to teach someone, it's usually said, when you're teaching someone, 2 people are learning. So it's very, very important that you continue to learn. And probably one of the paths for you to learn is to teach. So you need to also understand this. If you've been part of any program or you're learning something new, you need to understand that it is actually a marathon, not a sprint. The difference between a marathon and a sprint is like, okay, hey, we're doing 100 meters hurdle, and, like, you know, this is the destination. I'm just running there and I'm done. When it's a marathon, you know, it's like a large number of places you need to cover to get to where the end lab is. So you need to understand this. If you're here, you're now in tech, or you want to learn something, or wherever you want to be in this in a career, understand that it is a marathon and it's not a sprint. What you've learned over the last probably 3 weeks or probably the past 3 years is not the end of the journey. You're just starting. So know this and know peace. The other thing we need to understand is done is better than perfect. Whatever you're doing, get it out. You know you've done this. Don't wait for you to be a perfectionist before you get to do this. Especially for people who are starting up in the tech space. To get a role, all it takes is for the person who is trying to recruit you to know that you have passion for what you're trying to learn. When you do these things, please push them out. It is very, very important that people get to know what you've been doing, and you being able to complete a small fraction of what you've done so that you can be able to improve on it. Being able to be done with a part of what you're doing and getting it out is as important as waiting for it to be perfect. In short, a whole lot of people said there's actually nothing like being perfect, right? So if you have to wait for when your product or the idea you're trying to conceptualize is in a perfect shape, there's a high tendency you are not going to launch that. So it's very, very important we understand that to be done with something is better than to wait for it to be perfect. You look at this and you see that like a whole lot of people want to do something, but they're not very, very sure. Should we do it? Should we not do it? The only thing worse than not taking a chance is not starting it at all. If you see what we have here, the only thing worse than a bad decision is what? Not even making a decision at all. I usually use, when I come to this slide, I usually remember Thomas Edison. My physics people, or like people like generally, we definitely have bulbs here, right? And we know the story behind how bulbs were conceptualized. How many times have Edison tried to come up with this concept that never really worked? When he was asked at a point in time, you've tried and failed many times, he said, no, I just know many times, many ways that it did not work, right? So it's not about, what do you call it? It's not about making a bad decision. It's mostly about not trying it. Because he tried this way, it didn't work. He knows he can try the other way. So it's very, very important that we know this and we put this into our plans, right? That the worst thing than a bad decision is not taking a decision at all. And this is something, this is like two parts of this specific tip. You look at this and see it looks straightforward, but when you look at it backward, in my next slide, you will see that like it's very, very important that we get to do this. To get to what, the first one here said, to get to what you've never gotten before, you have to do something that you've never done before. If you're a student and every day, every time result comes out, let me just use the normal word we use in school. Anytime the Dombongo Epita, your heartbeat starts increasing. And then you start checking, okay, what's my CGP and the rest. If you want to change the state of that, maybe you only read during exam period. If you want to change that fact, right, you have to do something you've never done before, which is start reading early. If you want to get to where you've never been before, right, you have to do something you've never done before. So it's very, very important we look at this. You need to do what you've never done before, do something different to be able to get a different result. So this is the second part of it. To get what you have never gotten before, you have to do what? Something you've never done before. The initial one was to get what you've never gotten before, right? And here we're saying to get where you've never gone before, you have to use what? Like a different route to doing things. It's very important we understand that like there are many ways and many different ways to do things, right? If the way you're doing now, the way you're learning now, the way you're trying to get jobs out now is not working for you, maybe you should try a different strategy. Maybe you should think of doing a different thing or go a different route to get to this. And then this is very, very important. If you're good at what you're doing and only you know about it, there's a high tendency you are going to be missing a whole lot of opportunities. Because the people who will probably refer you for those jobs do not know you're actually good at what you're doing, right? So it's very, very important you put yourself out there. Tweet about it. Have a LinkedIn profile. Share about what you do. Because it's very, very important that you put yourself out there and share your story. For people who are looking to be in tech or people who are in the tech industry, one very, very hard truth is the jobs in our field is often gotten by referrals, right? But our own referrals is not who you know. Our referral is very, very different. Even though I have a friend who is trying to get a job, if someone reach out to me to say, hey, I need a front-end developer, and I know my friend is not a front-end developer, no matter how I like him, no matter how close we are, I cannot refer my friend, right? Because he does not have the skill set. The same thing happens in this case here. Even if someone is not your friend, when you attend events like this or you get to meet people, you need to tell them about what you are into. Share your own specialty. Use your social media to the best of your knowledge, right? To the best of your ability to share about what you've been up to. Share your story. Tell people about the things you've built. Tell people about where you want to be. Tell people about what you've been doing over the years. Because that story is what will get more people to know that you're a specialist in A or B or C. And when opportunities come, they will be able to refer you to take up those responsibilities. So it's very, very important that you share your story and you put yourself out there. And finally, before I leave stage, this is what I leave you with. You can either decide if today is going to be day one for you trying to improve your own skill set or to get your career to where you want it to be, or you want to keep it at one day I will start getting there. So it's either day one or one day. I will let you choose. Thank you very much.